The year is 2025, and if you're paying attention, banks are consolidating power at an alarming rate. The largest financial institutions now control over 70% of all banking assets, while central banks continue unprecedented monetary experiments. History tells us we've been here before. A small group of powerful bankers gathered in the mahogany-lined offices of Wall Street, witnessing the culmination of years of financial manipulation. Inside those exclusive boardrooms, they were about to profit immensely from a market collapse that would devastate millions and reshape the global economic landscape for decades. In the Roaring '20s, America's wealth concentration reached extreme levels, with the top 0.1% controlling nearly 25% of the nation's wealth. After the speculative bubble they helped create finally burst, the banking system that once seemed invincible lay in ruins, and everyone knew it wasn't an accident. So they did something that has only happened 5 times in American history. They engineered a financial collapse followed by massive consolidation. But this wasn't just a market correction. It was the continuation of a pattern that has repeated itself for over 300 years. A predictable cycle of boom, bust, consolidation, and regulatory capture. Every financial collapse has followed this same life cycle. And today, global financial markets are showing the same warning signs that preceded the 1929 crash. To understand what's coming, we need to go back. In 1791, the First Bank of the United States became America's first central bank. For about 20 years, it dominated American finance, controlling the nation's money supply and federal deposits. This wasn't luck. Alexander Hamilton had revolutionized American banking with a European-style central bank. The innovation created a standardized currency and provided credit to the new government, transforming a debt-ridden collection of states into a unified economic power. The revolution had left the new nation with crushing war debts. The Treaty of Paris in 1783 had established independence, but America's financial standing remained precarious. Hamilton found a way forward, literally creating a banking system from scratch. Philadelphia became the center of American finance. The bank's notes were accepted across the country, from Massachusetts to Georgia, creating America's first truly national currency. At its peak, the First Bank's influence stretched across all 13 states. It held roughly 70% of the federal government's deposits. The bank was considered the most powerful financial institution in the young republic. But as always, success led to overreach. Maintaining tight monetary policy drained the economy of needed currency. Competition from state banks grew fierce. Then the War of 1812 destabilized the American economy. By 1811, Congress refused to renew the bank's charter. The First Bank had ruled American finance for 20 years, and then it was gone, replaced by a chaotic period of unregulated state banking. America's economic rise began with westward expansion and cotton production. Southern plantations produced the raw materials that fueled Britain's Industrial Revolution. Discovered and developed in the early 1800s, cotton production transformed America's economy. The Second Bank of the United States became the most powerful financial institution in America. International investors trusted it so much that foreign capital poured into American development projects. The Second Bank's dominance lasted roughly 20 years, from 1816 to 1836. Under Nicholas Biddle, it effectively controlled the nation's money supply, inflation rate, and credit availability. But then, the familiar pattern appeared again: overextension and crushing debt. President Jackson left his successor a mountain of uncertainty after his war against the Second Bank. Government deposits were scattered among dozens of unregulated pet banks. Jackson's administration defaulted on international obligations 3 separate times: 1834, 1835, and 1836. The endless flow of land speculation created massive inflation. Property prices in major cities quadrupled during the early 1830s. When the supply of credit dropped by nearly 30% under Van Buren, America's economy crumbled and bankruptcies followed in 1837. By 1841, 9 states defaulted on their debts, and America's monetary stability ended. After the Civil War, America's industrial expansion created unprecedented economic growth. The Transcontinental Railroad, completed in 1869, revolutionized commerce, uniting East and West in a single market. Railroad bonds became the premier investment vehicle for domestic and foreign capital. America's banking system expanded dramatically with the creation of national banks in 1863. This system provided stable currency and fueled industrial growth through the 1860s. America's industrial boom lasted from 1865 to 1873. During this period, railroad mileage doubled, steel production tripled, and Wall Street emerged as a global financial power. Yet the pattern repeated. J. Cook and Company, America's premier investment bank, overextended itself, financing the Northern Pacific Railroad. When European investors pulled back after the Franco-Prussian War, America's credit bubble began to deflate. Corruption scandals like the Credit Mobilier affair revealed how railroad financiers had manipulated stock prices and defrauded investors. Public trust in financial institutions plummeted. When J. Cook declared bankruptcy on September 18, 1873, the stock market collapsed. By 1877, half of America's railroads had defaulted on their bonds. The ensuing depression lasted 6 years, with unemployment reaching 14%. America's industrial might reached new heights in the 1880s. The nation surpassed Britain in manufacturing output. A wave of mergers created industrial giants like Standard Oil and U.S. Steel. Banking houses like J.P. Morgan and Company rose to unprecedented influence. The gold standard provided monetary stability that attracted massive foreign investment. European capital poured into American railroads, mines, and factories. America's industrial dominance solidified between 1880 and 1893. During this time, the nation produced more steel, coal, and factories in the 1800s, and oil than any other country on Earth. Again, the pattern emerged. Overinvestment in railroads created a massive bubble. The Reading Railroad's bankruptcy in February 1893 triggered a cascade of failures. Over 15,000 businesses collapsed that year alone. The banking system proved dangerously vulnerable. With no central bank, financial panics spread unchecked. When the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad declared bankruptcy, bank runs began across the country. By the summer of 1893, over 500 banks had failed. Unemployment surpassed 18%. The Depression dragged on until 1897, fueling populist uprisings like the Free Silver Movement. The financial elite consolidated power as J.P. Morgan personally bailed out the U.S. Treasury in 1895.